Turquoise waters, white sand beaches, overwater villas, and endless sunshine. Sounds like paradise, right? The Maldives is the dream destination for honeymooners and luxury travelers. So naturally, many people imagine what it would be like to live there permanently. But here's the truth. Behind the glossy postcards and Instagram feeds, life in the Maldives is much harder than you think. From skyrocketing costs to climate change threats, limited freedoms, and daily inconveniences, living in the Maldives is far from paradise. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal why moving to the Maldives may not be the dream you imagined. Welcome to the Maldives. This small island nation in the Indian Ocean is made up of 1,192 coral islands grouped into 26 atolls. Only about 200 of them are inhabited, with roughly 164 used as tourist resorts. From above, the Maldives looks like a string of emerald green pearls dropped into a turquoise sea. It's warm year-round, with average highs between 82 and 88 degrees Fahrenheit or 28 and 31 degrees Celsius. Sounds perfect, but let's look at what life is really like. The size problem. The Maldives is tiny. Its total land area is just 115 square miles or 300 square kilometers. That's smaller than the city of Philadelphia, and unlike larger island chains like Hawaii, you don't have big islands with forests and mountains to explore. Each island is small. Some are barely big enough to hold a resort or a single fishing village. That means daily life can feel claustrophobic. Imagine never being more than a 15-minute walk from the sea. Beautiful, yes, but also limiting. Isolation and travel. Then there's isolation. The Maldives is 430 miles southwest of India and Sri Lanka. To leave, you'll need a plane or a long boat ride. Even within the country, moving between islands isn't easy. There are ferries, but they're irregular and often slow. For faster travel, you'll need speedboats or seaplanes, both extremely expensive. So if you think island hopping sounds fun, remember, it comes with a hefty price tag. Cost of living. And speaking of price tags, the Maldives is not cheap. According to Numbeo, the cost of living is over 30% higher than the global average, and groceries can cost double or triple what you'd pay in many countries. Why? Because nearly everything has to be imported. From rice and milk to building materials and fuel, it all comes in by boat or plane. Locals get by on basics like fish, coconuts, and rice, but if you're craving variety, be prepared to pay. And electricity, it's expensive too, because almost all power comes from imported diesel fuel. Housing crisis. Now let's talk housing. In the capital, Malé, space is so limited that it's one of the most densely populated cities in the world. Over 200,000 people are crammed into just 2 square miles or 5 square kilometers. Apartments are tiny, rents are sky high, and there's almost no greenery. Imagine New York City, but without Central Park, without cars, and surrounded by ocean. And outside of Malé, many islands don't even have proper housing markets. Unless you work for a resort, housing can be almost impossible to secure. Income and jobs. What about work? Tourism accounts for nearly 40% of the Maldives' GDP and over 70% of foreign exchange earnings. But most jobs are in resorts, which means long hours, relatively low pay, and sometimes limited rights for foreign workers. If you're a foreigner dreaming of living here, getting a job is not easy. Work permits are limited, competition is high, and locals are often given preference. And forget about easily starting a business. The Maldives ranks poorly on ease of doing business due to bureaucracy, high costs, and restrictions on foreign ownership. Education and healthcare. If you have kids, brace yourself. Education is available, but limited. For higher quality or specialized schooling, many Maldivian families send their children abroad, often to India or Sri Lanka. Healthcare has improved, but advanced medical care usually requires traveling overseas. That means even a serious illness or surgery often leads to costly medical evacuations. Climate change, the biggest threat. Here's the biggest issue. The Maldives is the lowest lying country on Earth. The average ground level is just 4 feet above sea level, and the highest point in the entire country is barely 17 feet. Rising sea levels threaten the very existence of the nation. Scientists estimate that by the year 2100, much of the Maldives could be uninhabitable due to flooding, coastal erosion, and saltwater contamination of freshwater supplies. In fact, entire islands have already been evacuated as sea levels creep higher. Imagine living in a place where your entire country might disappear within your lifetime. Freshwater scarcity. Water is another huge problem. Most islands don't have rivers or lakes. Freshwater comes from rainwater collection or desalination, a process that turns seawater into drinkable water, but at a very high cost. In dry seasons, shortages are common. Locals often rely on bottled water, which is both expensive and wasteful. Waste and pollution. Tourism brings money, but it also brings garbage. The Maldives produces around 365,000 tons of solid waste per year, much of it from resorts. On tiny islands, there's no space for landfills, so waste is shipped to places like Thilafushi, also known as Trash Island. Mountains of garbage are burned there daily, releasing toxic fumes. For many locals, the postcard image of paradise is replaced with the smell of burning trash. Freedom and social life. Another thing many people don't realize, the Maldives is a conservative Muslim country. Alcohol is banned outside of resorts, public displays of affection are discouraged, and modest dress is expected on local islands. For expats used to nightlife or free-flowing beer, this can be a huge culture shock. Malé does have some restaurants and cafes, but don't expect a buzzing social scene. Many foreigners report feelings of isolation and culture clash. Island fever. And yes, island fever is real here too. Living on a tiny island with limited activities, the same faces and few opportunities for change can quickly become mentally draining. Locals often describe feelings of restlessness, boredom, and isolation. For many expats, the beauty wears off after a year or two, replaced by the monotony of daily island life. Natural disasters. The Maldives is also vulnerable to natural disasters. In 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami caused major destruction across the islands. Storm surges, coastal erosion, and flooding are regular threats. And unlike larger countries, the Maldives doesn't have much land to retreat to when disasters strike. Wealth gap. One more issue: inequality. The luxury resorts you see in the brochures, many of them are owned by foreign companies or Maldivian elites. While tourists sip cocktails in $1,000 a night villas, many locals live in cramped housing, working long hours in low-paying jobs. The contrast between wealth and poverty is stark and growing. So, is the Maldives paradise? Yes, if you're visiting for a week in an overnight villa. But living there is another story. High costs, limited freedoms, environmental threats, and daily inconveniences make life in the Maldives far more difficult than the glossy brochures suggest. That's why so many locals dream of moving abroad, even while millions of tourists dream of moving in. So, next time you think about packing your bags for a permanent tropical escape, remember, everyone wants to move to the Maldives, until they learn this.